Good morning, everybody. It is Sunday, and it is I, Stippling Vaughn. And as you can see, I'm at my local dive bar. You can hear from the background noise that there are other people in this bar. This is where I get my work done. I'd like to give a thank you to and a welcome to all the new subscribers. Got a lot of people watching the last Stippling short I did. Punxsutawney Phil got a couple new subscribers, so welcome to Stippling Vaughn. This is Sunday Stippling, and what I'll do is I will do a short, about 15-20 minute video talking while I work, explaining the process and talking about comic book stuff, and then I will move over and I will work on my time-lapse short video. Welcome and thank you very much. Please, everybody, remember to like and subscribe, comment, and share it out. One of the things that helps out is when you share it out, even if it's a short, if you share it out for others to see, it helps me out. It helps the algorithm. It helps specifically with the shorts. It helps when you share a video. It helps make it a video that should be shared out, to be suggested for other people. So it's greatly appreciated. And as you can hear from the one girl hollering out, turn up the volume. So the music is going to be rising. And like I said, this is a public bar. It's my local dive bar. It's where I get all my work done. I enjoy it very much. When I'm at home, I control the TV. I control the music. I am surrounded by all my stuff, which means I'm surrounded by distractions. But when I'm here, I don't control any of that. I'm not surrounded by my stuff. I don't have control over the TV. I don't have control over the music. And it helps. The more people in this bar, actually, the more I'm able to zone in and focus and tune them out, which helps out a lot. It's the reason why I do all my work here. A lot of people are like, huh? You do your work here? And I said, yep, I do. And I enjoy it. So, we are less than a month away from the Baltimore Comic Con. And I can't wait. I really can't wait. There's a lot of artists that are going to be there that either I have not seen in a long time, or for me, it's their first time showing up at a show. Art Adams will be there. First time he was there. I, of course, had him sign the New Mutants special and annual number 9 of the X-Men. When I had him sign it, I joked, I said, you're probably tired of having everybody sign this issue, but they're my favorites. And he gave a slight chuckle and said, hey, everybody's got a favorite. Everybody talks about how Art Adams is grudgingly liked. I didn't find that at all. I felt him to be quite genuine. It's very easy to say, oh, that's how he is. Didn't bother me at all. Remember, most artists have, it's amazing so many artists are able to be successful in an industry where you got to constantly be hustling for your next job. When so many artists, when you meet them at conventions, you can see how, in many ways, we're anti-social because we're not accustomed to having to deal with people. I think one of the things that helps me is working here at the bar and working and talking to other people on a regular basis. So, another person who's going to be at the show first time for me, him being at the show, is John Bogdanovu. I know I'm probably pronouncing his name wrong. I apologize. As soon as I saw him he was going to be at this show, I immediately thought of that Superman Man of Steel issue he did. Louise Simonson wrote it. It was for the 0 Hour crossover. And I remember, like I said, and reason why is because he drew Batman from all the different eras in the style in which he was drawn during those eras. So he has like a Neil Adams Batman. He's got a Frank Miller Dark Knight. He's even got the Bob Kane Batman. And what it was with 0 Hour Hero, like all the timelines were merging together. And I still remember as how, like, because this was right after the Return of Superman, and he had long hair, and the Neil Adams Batman called him a dirty ass hippie because he had long hair. So, but no, that was the first issue. That was the first thing that came to mind when I saw he was going to be at the show. And years ago, probably about like 8-9 years ago, I had Louise sign that issue. And when she saw I had that issue for her to sign, her very first response was, that issue would not have been possible without his work. He's the one that made that issue. So it really is nice that it's kind of coming full circle, that he's going to be at the show, and one of the very first books that I thought of, like, oh, I've got to have him sign, was that issue. And not because Louise said that, but because I generally really did like that issue and how he drew in different styles to show the different carnations or versions of Batman over the years. So, Dan Brereton, he's the horror artist who does the Nocturnals. I'm hoping he's going to have an art book there. He didn't have an art book there last year. And see, I don't have any of his work other than when he's done covers. So I had him sign the covers to Flesh and Blood, an independent, like almost like self-publishing book of horror. Neil Vokes. I bought them from him at a show years ago. So I had him sign it because he did the covers. So it was one of those was like, oh, I haven't seen one of these signed. I haven't signed one of these in a long time. So that was nice. So this time when I go to see him, the only thing I'm really going to have him sign, or have for him to sign, are the covers from Legion when he did those. So I picked out, I think there was like 4 issues specific of Legion that I looked at and was like, oh, those are good issues I'd like to have for him to sign. If he is charging, and here's the big thing also, is when I go down to see a show, when I go down to see his artists now, because so many of them charge for signatures, and I don't have a problem paying for signatures, but I only pay so much money. So generally when I go down there, I'll have set aside, and I budget this out throughout the year from each paycheck. I'll take $20 per artist, okay? So by signing by having $20 per artist, hopefully they're only charging like $5 per signature. And if they're charging $5 per signature, okay, I can get 4 books signed. If they're charging $10, then I'll have them sign 2 books. And if it's an artist I really like, there's a couple artists where when I went down there and here they were charging $10 a signature, I was like, no, I don't like this issue enough to have them sign it. I mean, I always take down the stuff that I like, but there's some artists I look at it and it's like, charging $10 a signature. No, I'm sorry, I don't like the book that much. If it was something I really like, then yeah, I'm probably going to have them sign it. Perfect example is Bob Hall. Bob Hall charges $10 a signature, and he did the artwork for Squadron Supreme, and I really like Squadron Supreme. I have almost every single issue signed by one person or another. In fact, when Sam De La Rosa was at the HersheyCon this year, he was charging $10 a signature. I had him sign 4 issues of Squadron Supreme, because it's the only way I could get them signed is if he signed it, because everyone else who worked on that book has sadly passed away. So for me, it's one of those where it's like, yeah, it's a bit much, but it's the Squadron Supreme, and I really like the Squadron Supreme. Whereas there are other books that he's worked on that anyone else who looked at it and like, oh, I want him to sign this because it would have value moving down in the future. I don't look at books that way. I mean, I could have had him sign Predator. Remember, Sam De La Rosa did the issues 1 and 2 of the first Predator series for Dark Horse. I could have had them sign those because they had low print runs, and it was really, I could have got those signed, but I didn't because those ones were like, no, that's not really, I'd rather have Squad Supreme signed than Predator. So, but no, Chris Claremont, he's going to be there. He's one of those artists or writers, I should say, was the first time meeting him. I'm really curious as to what he's charging. If he's charging $20 a book, I might have him sign 2 books. But overall, I'm hoping he's not going to be charging $20 for a signature. I know I know from people talking in the past how he's basically on contract by Marvel not to write anything. Basically to keep him from working for the competition. So for me, I kind of look at one of those where it's like, hopefully he's in good enough shape financially that he's only going to be charging $5 or $10 a signature. If he is going to be charging $5, $10 a signature, then yeah, I mean, God Loves, Man Kills, New Mutants, the first graphic novel, annual number 1 of Star Wars. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, so I've got to have him sign that. And then after that, it's one of those where it's like, do I really want these issues of X-Men that I pulled out for him to sign? The ones I'm having him sign would be the Mutant Massacre. For me, as a X-Men fan, that's where everything really changed for the X-Men, was when he did that. When he did the Mutant Massacre, it changed everything. Remember, after that, for almost a year, 2 years after that, the X-Men were all but separated from all the rest of the Marvel Universe. They were then separated, so they're like all over the globe on their individual adventures, just trying to survive. So that was the catalyst for it all. So I really like to have him sign those if possible. If he's charging too much, then no, they're not going to get signed. So, Gene DeCarlo, love Gene DeCarlo. He did the inks with George Perez in the Crisis on Infinite Earths. He also did the Titans story where they fought the Hive. So it was all over George Perez's work. He also did a couple covers for Justice League of America over George Perez. So yeah, if I can have him sign those, he's not charging too much. He's going to be there with the Heroes Initiative booth. With the Heroes Initiative booth, you get the artists there who they generally understand what it means, and they're like, here, you're going to pay this much money for my signature. It all goes to Heroes Initiative. Okay, great. Okay, I'm going to have X amount of books to be signed. But if it's somewhere like other creators are there and they're pocketing it all themselves, then it's one of those where it's like, oh, I'll have you sign this many books. So if they're pocketing the money, I won't be asking them to sign. I won't be spending as much there at the table. So, and then of course, like Gene Ha, Tony Harris, Adam Hughes. I mean, you gotta see them and have them sign stuff. And I'm not one of those that goes up to an artist and here's 40 issues that you did. And you sign them. No. I found that for me the sweet spot to have artists sign books without it being too little or too much is 7 books. I know, like Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. He doesn't charge, but he only does he only signs 5 books at a time. So on the first day there, I'll have him sign 5 books, and then on the last day there, I'll have him sign an additional 5 books. So I'll be having him sign 10 books total. And the reason why is because I just love Jose so much. His artwork is so nice. He is such a nice man. And he's one of those people where it's like, when you think about how like the image boom, how it's like he should have been, I mean, he's one of those artists. He was treated fairly, but he never became the superstar that he should have become during the 80s and 90s. In some ways, DC was very smart by having him almost like an on-staff artist, by having him being the one who draws the style guide that they'd hand out to people who were getting the license to do DC properties. He essentially set the style for how the artwork would look, whether it be on a paper plate, whether it be on a magazine cover, and it wasn't a DC art, it wasn't a reprint of a comic book cover. And he, in turn, ended up, how can I phrase this? He established the DC style that with other artists were able to look at and like, okay, this is the style in which Superman still look. This is the way Batman still look. And you really look at it, that's one of the reasons why even when you had that wave of new styles during the 90s, and even with the end of the 80s to a point, I think that's the reason why DC was able to maintain a house, and I use air quotes, house style, was because everyone was being given the character sheets that he created. It's like, okay, you're drawing Batman, here's how Batman looks. And they'd give him, and he would lots of times have the job of doing updates. So if they did an update to a certain character, he would do a new character sheet. So that way, for licensing purposes, but it would be then provided to artists, so artists had that character sheet to look at. And it would give the Superman and the Batman a quintessential look or a house style look. So Jose is very important in the industry. He's very humble, very polite. And again, it's one of those, I love seeing him. And then lastly, the last like 3 artists I'm looking forward to seeing that I've never met before is Jaelee. I want him to sign my my G.I. Joe Transformers limited series when it's with Devil's Due, I think it was. It takes place in World War II. And I really do enjoy the artwork. He really grasped the idea of how, well, not just how it was written, but how he drew it with the Joes and with the Transformers, the Decepticons, and the Autobots for vehicles of that era. I've never been a huge fan of Jaeelee's until that point. I really like how he did those issues. So, along with Mark Irwin, he did when DC Comics redid the Vibe series, or recreated the character, brought the character back with a new look and all. He did 2 issues, Vibe being my favorite. Even though I don't care for that version of Vibe, he still did Vibe, so I gotta have him sign those. And then lastly, like I said, is Philip Tan. Philip Tan, I'm not sure if I'm gonna have him sign. It's one of those, he's there, I've never met him before. I might have him sign, I might not, because he's never really done anything that I'm really like, oh my god, he's so good, and I love this issue so much, I gotta have him sign it. It's not the case. I find out a lot of the newer wave of artists and writers, if they're not crowdfunding, they're really not doing anything to set the world on fire for me with their mainstream work. So, yeah, I know, you're all saying the same thing. You're not putting any ink on the paper. It's barely going down. And you're right, this inkwell with the old ink is on its last legs. Last night I was looking through my inkwells and I found some old inkwells. I'm like, oh, let's see how the ink is on these, so I can maybe replace this one that's dying. They are even worse. So what I gotta do is I gotta this newer inkwell I have, I need to use the hell out of it. So when I do my stippling short, I use that ink. That's the reason why the dots are like much stronger like this here in those shorts. So I really got to work on that inkwell, get it run down so that way it starts to have ink like this, lay like this, so that way I can start using it again. Because I use my ink the way I'd use different brushes for different effects. Okay, so one thing is, like, when you have ink at the bottom of the inkwell, it's much more gray and fine like this, how I'm doing it. I'm also using the nib upside down. That's another thing I do to get that wispy line. Because right now, if I were to flip this over and do it normally, all it comes out is big blotches. So now when I have the newer ink, because it's ink, it's liquid, you get the dots. Let's see, you get the dots like this. So yeah, so the stippling the stippling short that I'll be doing, it's going to be there. One thing before I stop, I wanted to give you guys a short preview. So this is, of course, where they're just about to be hit. They're turning just before they're sucker punched. And then there's the panel where they're falling down the hill, which if you look at last year around March, on March 13th, you'll see that video of that one being worked on. This is the afterwards, where they've fallen down. Mac has fallen. He's fallen down the hill. He's bumped up against a tree. You got Bob. He's woken up before Mac, and he's looking over his shoulder, and he's scared. And in this area here, we're going to have the monster that knocked them down the hill. So once I start working on the monster and putting that in, I won't be able to show this anymore. So just showing you guys what I might do is, once I have this whole thing drawn, I'll probably take a piece of paper, tape it over top this top section. That way you can see me working. You can see me working in this area around here. So that way I can still use this for demos, for doing my videos. So, but hey, I'm gonna get to work on the other piece. The other piece, of course, is this one. And I don't know. I might work over here on this side, where you got the little fairy hiding in the tree, in the grass. Might be working on the whiskey bottle, or I might be working on this one. I don't know yet. So I'll find that. I'll figure that out when I start it up. So hey, I'll get to work. Remember, everybody, you guys all have a great day. But remember, whether you have a good day or a bad day, life is always going to be stressful. And that's why you take it all one dot at a time.